Not exactly legal, but it is exactly awesome!
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Funsmiths. I'm Viktor Pradley.
I'm GrandJason, and this is episode 22. I can do it solo.
Other than that would be 24. And then what am I gonna do now?
You can do nothing. Just like what you're doing right now.
That's me.
Lockdown.
The doing nothing man. I don't know. I keep relatively busy. Although this week has been such a nothing week for me.
Yeah, because all the Runeterra players are too tired and too burnt out to play the game anymore.
Yeah, a lot of them aren't playing. Some of them are jumping on other games. There's plenty of them still playing, but like the ones that are relevant to me, specifically like, you know, the guy I edit videos for, hasn't been playing that much. And then also, there's apparently a few tournaments happening this weekend. So everyone's like playing off stream and preparing and doing all this shit. And they don't want to give away.
Really?
They don't want to give away like their decks and shit like that.
Is it a super serious tournament?
I don't know. By the time I woke up, it was already like towards the end of the tournament.
Okay.
And there was no way I was staying up to watch this tournament. I can't even remember. Like they called it Fight Night. It was like a Fight Night tournament or something like that.
Okay.
And I watched Alan play a game against some guy named Kuvira, and Kuvira played really slow, and then surrendered, and then posted in the Discord, "I'm sorry, I'm too tired, and I haven't eaten since yesterday, so I'm playing like shit, please no flame," and that was it. That was all I watched.
Okay, cool.
That was my experience.
I don't know, like, losing is fine, but it's like, it's just like, you know, it's like losing and then being so self-conscious that you immediately have to type into chat to why you played bad. It's just kind of like, oh man, this guy's insecure. I don't know, that's how I see it anyways. If you lose, you lose, you win, you win.
It comes across that way for me. But, like, I don't know, like, he's a cool dude, so I don't want to, like, shit on him.
Yeah.
But,
I don't know, because...
But, like,
I'm personally like... if I don't prepare for a tournament properly, I just be like, I did not prepare for this tournament, or like, I just had a bad day, you know? There's no need to go into all the intricate details. You know, we all have good days, we all have bad days.
Yeah, and there's a certain level of, like, taking responsibility for your own play. Which is sort of like the first step anyway towards, like, becoming a better player, is just, like, that humble moment where you're just like, okay, like, I'm fucking bad, or I'm fucking playing terribly, and I need to be better, or whatever, and I need to stop just getting angry every time something happens, and instead actually think about, you know, where it went wrong. Don't blame shit like luck, you know, real basic stuff. And,
Because I recently played a Dragon Ball Super tournament, and I beat this guy pretty soundly. Then at the end of the game, I'm like, oh yeah, alright, good game. And he's like, no, it really wasn't. I'm like, okay, buddy. And he was like pretty salty towards the end anyways. And it's like, my mentality is, if you haven't lost enough to the point where losing doesn't sting anymore, you're not good enough to be a winner. Because you only get that good is if you go through like tons of losses. Unless you're just naturally super talented. But then again, they're like super fragile if they ever lose.
You can really tell watching someone play when they're sort of, like, it's like almost like real nervous play, where it's like they take a really long time to do something, they keep like hovering certain moves and then taking it back, and like I can really tell that with some players, and I don't know if it's them, I don't know, maybe they're up against someone they're a little bit intimidated by, or if they really are like super unprepared, or if they just don't have like a tremendous amount of tournament experience. I get pretty nervous at tournaments as well. I would have liked to have participated in some tourneys. I said last set I would have liked to participate in some tourneys this time around, but I really haven't put my mind to the game at all, and it kind of shows. I mean, if you run into me on ladder, I'm not a tremendously attentive player.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, nah, man, you still burnt out from that Masters grind, man. Man, Masters grinds like just drain you out, man. Like I swear, it feels like when you grind Masters, the next season's a write off. Like the next.
yeah, it's like you just take a break for a season, you come back the next one.
Yeah, man.
I haven't been playing much at all, but I played a little bit today because there's a guy in the Discord group called 209, and he actually wrote a pretty interesting Reddit article which I might try and find in the meantime. But he's one of the better players in the community or whatever. But he put together this deck that's like a burn aggro deck, but it like scrapped. It took out all the Noxus pieces, and it went PNZ instead because like Bilgewater's really strong right now. Bilgewater's like a lot of the best decks because it just like it deals with all that late game bullshit really well. So he threw together. We're in this Discord call, and he sends me this deck, and I load it up, and he goes, "All right, share your screen, and we'll play it." So I got this like free coaching from this guy basically, and can't remember where I was going with this, but it's like
it's
fuck,
either
where was I going with this?
Yeah, it's either he was telling you some really insightful shit that you didn't even think of, or it's like. You're really bad. It's probably going to end one of those ways.
Oh well, he pretty much tells me what to do the whole time anyway. He doesn't know me that well, so he's one of the to be honest, I know him better than most of the guys in there because he's the only one that just like jumps in and starts talking. Doesn't matter who's there. But the deck felt pretty good, but it's just like you got someone standing over you saying, put down this card, put down this card, put down this card. And unless you're like sitting there questioning every single play, then like you're not really learning anything unless you're like doing stuff yourself, and then the guy's going, you shouldn't do that, you should do this instead. Oh, why should I do that? Well, you have to do that because of this, and you're not paying attention to like this or whatever.
Yeah, man. Like asking questions is really important. Like or at least from the teacher, they need to explain the reasoning in their moves. They might play certain ways, but like people, if they don't understand the reasoning behind it, then they don't understand necessarily why they go about their plays in a certain way. It's good if they're a good teacher, but like if they're not a good teacher, you just have to ask a shit ton of questions. Yeah,
yep.
I totally understand that.
Totally lost my train of thought as to why I brought it up to begin with, but there you go. That's the games I played today. I played some other guy's deck. Funny part is, I load up my decks, and he's watching because you can share screens on Discord, and there's just
what is this garbage?
There's
it's
five
Tarek
decks. I'm not even joking. It's like Tarek Noxus, Mono Targon Tarek, Tarek Demacia, Tarek Shadow Isles, and he's like, wow, someone really likes Tarek. And I said, hey man, I'm on a quest to find the best Tarek deck. And he's like, well, fucking no matter, you don't play the game anymore, dude. Because you're sitting here suffering on this garbage.
I don't know. Tarek probably doesn't seem that bad. What's your problem with Tarek at the moment? Like you've been like trying Tarek for a whole bunch of stuff. What seems to be the issue?
Oh, I mean, I like Tarek. He just, I don't really know how to put it. First, like, he's...
Like, you can't settle on a deck or something, or what?
Well, there is, like... Pretty much all the Tarek decks have, like, pretty bad win rates. So, I don't want to, like, make a case for him being a good champion. And I certainly lose a lot of the games I do play with Tarek. There are some interesting ideas in there, and there are some people trying out some different stuff. But it just... I think it's I think there are cards. I think there's a lack of. There's like it feels like there are cards missing from like a Tarek archetype that like aren't in the game or something like that. Because you kind of want to be able to play Tarek on 4, put a nice buff spell on him, and then like pass it on to someone else, and get like really good value out of it. And the best you really have is like maybe like Pale Cascade, I guess. But you normally like to use Pale Cascade as a response spell, so like prematurely dropping Pale Cascade isn't like super good. You do get the double draw though, which is nice. Probably like the best card you can play with Tarek on the turn you play him is like Zenith Blade, like +2 health, 1 attack, overwhelm.
Okay. I think, okay, like from my perspective, I think you might be. I don't know. I have a feeling that you might be mentally getting too caught up on. You might be getting too caught up on the copying buffs part. I think. All right. I think it's kind of like he's kind of like Misfortune, in the sense that you play him for his like base ability, but you really want to level him up. Like Misfortune leveled up is like no one denies like leveled up Misfortune is like really strong, like game-endingly strong. And I think that's the way you got to look at Tarek, right? I think that's the way you got to look at Tarek. You don't want to like it's pretty committal to like try to drop like a 3, 4, 5 cost spell onto Tarek and then try to copy it. Like you feel like you're trying to get good value, but like spells inherently don't have major value. Their value comes from the fact that they're instant, or they can be played during combat and stuff. So you're not really getting too much of a surprise factor even when you're like doubling up like spells and stuff. Because like, yeah, if you combat pump during combat, you win a combat, you kill that guy, and your guy usually survives. Yeah, but like doing that with Tarek to try to copy it doesn't seem like a whole lot of value. I think the better value of Tarek is you level him up and you just try to drag the game out longer, and then you just like abuse the fact that he's like invulnerable.
Well, it's kind of the direction that like Demacia style Tarek decks go for. They just go for like hard bashing power, which is just like a Bannerman deck anyway. Kind of like the problem Tarek runs into is like he's just like a bit of a Vladimir. Vladimir's a champion that has really good cards in the Crimson archetype, like Transfusion's like super good. That fat guy that draws you the Crimson Curator's a really good card. Like he gives you a whole bunch of value if they don't have good blocks for him. Disciple's always been a really good card. Even like that 4 mana deal 1 to everything on the board. Like you can just play him as like a 4 mana 5/5 and like it's like an ahead of curve really strong card. And you think, wow, these are all great cards. The obvious choice is to put Vladimir in. But in a lot of cases, Vladimir's just not providing that much to the archetype. Even though he's dealing 1 to everything to like trigger all their effects. And then it like hits the Nexus. You sort of just run into problems where, ooh, I can't really attack with this unit and that unit because they're only on like 1 health because I've been fucking hitting them so many times. Like, it's kind of like Vladimir's problem, right? He like struggles in his own archetype. With Tarek, if you want to say it, go ahead.
Yeah, it's a problem that like it feels like he doesn't give you enough of value right now when you drop the Vladimir. Yeah.
Yeah, so
keep going. Yeah.
What ends up happening is that like Crimson cards will be run, and then like Vladimir will eventually get dropped for like something else. You know, they might play Braum or whatever instead, or like maybe just like there's 3 followers that fit better in the Vladimir slot. For Tarek, it's like you want to run him with all the support shit and all the buff shit, and like getting a nice Mountain Sojourner's trigger off that gives like 2/2 across your whole board feels super sick. And you'd think that, oh yeah, Tarek's like the obvious auto include because these are supposed to be like Tarek's follower cards. But it's sort of like, oh, you'd rather just play anything that actually buffs for stats instead of like temporarily giving something like toughness. And playing Tarek anytime after 4 is also really hard because 4 health isn't a lot. So you generally just... So you'd need to be able to copy a spell and like get the extra value onto Tarek. And then what ends up happening is, oh, you just cut Tarek because there's too many hoops to jump through to make Tarek work really well when you could just run like any other support card for cheaper. And because you just want to keep extending the all you really want to do is just keep extending the Sojourner's chain, because then you're just like making this big fat gigantic board. Like, you know, I tried out the pick strategy that you came up with a few weeks back. Where you play the allegiance card in Ionia and put
Kinko.
down like two pixes.
Yeah,
with
or
and then
Flower Child or some shit. Yeah.
I took out Flower Child. I just went hard picks.
Okay. Hard picks.
And Sojourners. So Sojourners. So you get like 2 free targets to that will extend the chain, and then you can just buff up Kinko at the end. She can be like your buff recipient if you don't have anything else on the board. Yeah. So you just get like this like 5 unit long chain or whatever. And it was often hard to like fit Tarek into that, especially because like if I'm playing units on curve, I don't really get the benefit of copying spells on Tarek because I've got no spell mana when I drop him.
Yeah.
I'm better off just running like a Fuzzy Caretaker or something in Tarek's slot. Like, it costs the same, but he gets more benefits for being supported, and he gives instant value when he supports. That's better than just granting someone tough. Anyway. Kind of my Tarek problem. I feel like he's just...
How did that Kinko thing go? Was it actually like...
It was really
decent?
It was really fun. But what often happens is you just like run into Bilgewater and you just surrender.
Oh, okay.
Because Bilgewater just doesn't care. Just make it rain. Kills all your pixes. Yeah. But you get this huge board, and it's like suddenly your opponent has to start like trading 4-drops into like 1-drop picks. Because your pixes are so massive. But you do kind of depend on hitting your pieces on curve. Like, if you don't get Sojourners, it's kind of game over. You can get by if you don't land Kinku. You just need to hope you're playing a support unit like every turn. So, yeah, I mean, like, there's probably some ways that I could optimize it, but I haven't really been playing. But it's a super fun, it's a super fun, like, cheesy strategy that starts getting really scary because they just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And suddenly your opponent just can't get over them. And they're fucking 1-drops, man. It's a 1-drop 0/1 support grant 2/1.
Yeah. Okay.
So it is funny. The other what I ended up on was Tarek with Diana. Ends up being pretty good, because buffing up Diana with Tarek is pretty sweet. And to be honest, I think Diana kind of carries the deck.
Yeah,
but I had more success with that than any of the other Tarek versions. But I did sort of end up with like a Tarek Allegiance deck that just ran all the Targon Invoke shit. And really, it's just a deck where you just keep invoking shit. And it just runs Tarek. It just runs Tarek as its champion.
I drafted that once. So good. Got 5 of those Legions guys. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're so good. But yeah, that's kind of it. Flipping Tarek is good and all. But it's just it's too easy to just have your Tarek get obliterated.
Mm-hmm.
Just like before he levels, after he levels, even if he's invuln, it doesn't matter. They play 3-drop Priestess, pull a Comet, blow your Tarek up.
Oh, does it go through? Does Obliterate go for invulnerability?
Absolutely, it does.
Oh, okay. It doesn't go through Spell Shield though.
There's also the Hush problem. So you can silence Tarek for the turn with Hush and take away his invuln, and he goes back to a 2/4. And it's so easy to kill a 2/4 at like that stage of the game in combat. Well, he wouldn't go to a 2/4. I guess he'd go to like a 3/5, which is his flip stats. But you know, he's not invincible anymore. Mm-hmm. Imagine that, Tarek being countered by his own region.
Well, that's Shadow Isles, isn't it? They've got the card that dicks on Shadow Isles the hardest. Obliterate all dudes that were special summoned a turn.
No. You know, that card, so it never gets run, has like the best win rate in the game or something. Like in decks it's in, it has like a 60-something% win rate.
Okay, cool.
Just a fun little tidbit I thought I'd share with you.
How'd you hear about that? Only like Ride would have stats like that.
Oh, it's all on Mobalytics.
Okay. Oh, okay.
It's all on Mobalytics. 209, who I was talking about earlier, I couldn't find the Reddit post he made, but he put up a Reddit post a few days ago talking about how we shouldn't be using Mobalytics as like this gospel source for statistics like we always do, because there's something like a 9% margin of error with like the win rates and shit like that, which is actually pretty enormous. If you're talking about like a 58% win rate deck, it could have a potential margin of error of 9%, or suddenly it's a less than 50%. It's a 49% win rate and shit like that. And it's mostly because I've never known at all how Mobalytics get their stats.
How does it get stats?
Apparently, people need to have like the Mobalytics deck tracker enabled or some shit like that.
Yeah, that's what I would have thought.
So it pulls stats from people's games who have the plugin enabled. But first of all, not everyone runs the plugin. It doesn't work on mobile, and there's probably a huge amount of people playing mobile. And then he had a statistic down like 60% of all Masters players have the deck tracker, but only like half of those people actually are using it in every game.
Okay. Well, yeah, okay. So in statistics, I think we call that error a stratified error. So it's or selection error, one of those. So basically, it's like you're trying to use a technique to sample the entire population to try to come up with an average or something. But the thing is that if you can only select data from a very particular pool, it might be reflective of that pool, but it's not reflective of the entire population, right? It'd be like looking at the average income of a city, but all you do is survey older people in older, like, rich suburbs, right? So it's kind of the equivalent here. It's like, trying to find the statistics of certain games, but only to the people that are so into this game that they're using this deck track. So in that regard, it's not a very good reflective. In terms of statistics, it's very, very flawed. So I can understand that, and I wouldn't use statistics like that as any sort of gospel. Typically, from when I want to sort of think about like win rates and lose rates, I want to play the deck a lot, and then like I can sort of feel out what, like, over the course of X amount of games against certain matchups, I can sort of feel out what are the key cards that sort of really hurt or help certain matchups, or and I think that's really the way to go about it. But obviously, people don't really have the time and energy to get that done, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
I do think it is important that people sort of not let a number on a website dictate whether or not you play a certain card or a certain deck archetype or anything like that. Because you can look at I made a video for Dragons a while back for Alan's channel, and I used this gag where, so Smaug from The Hobbit.
Yeah, I know of it. I haven't watched The Hobbit, but I know.
So
of it, yeah.
I used some Smaug memes for the video, and there's one of them where Smaug stands up and shows Bilbo, "This is what I look like. How do the stories way up now?" And when he did that, I put the statistics for some of the the dragon cards on there, and it's all like 40-something percent, 40-something percent. And Bilbo goes, oh, truly. and then Alan goes on to play with like the dragon cards and shit like that. I don't think it's fair just because like a card might have a bad win rate on the website, or if you find the specific deck it has a bad win rate on the website, that you as a player decide it's not worth trying or it's not worth playing. You know, decks can be looked at in the wrong way, they can be played the wrong way, they could have the wrong selection of cards, and then there's also like there could be just so many fucking people playing a deck as well that aren't necessarily people who are good with the deck, and it can drag the win rate down. Win rates are affected by quite a number of things.
Yeah, like, and the thing is that, alright, people looking at the win rate percentages, I don't think they realize how small those percentages are, right? It's like, let's say the best deck of the format might have a win rate of 70%, right? But the second best deck, which has, like, let's say an even matchup with the best deck, has like a, let's say, a 67% win rate. So therefore, it's the second best deck, right? People are like, nah, forget about that 67% win rate deck. Let's go to 70% win rate deck. That 3% is basically negligible, right? And also, like, to use another analogy, it's like in Pokemon, I was like, you might have an elemental type, so you get that stab bonus. So if the best deck with that 70% win rate isn't one that you have an elemental affinity to, you don't get the stab bonus. It's better to play the 67% one, get that stab bonus, and have your better win rate. For those of you guys that don't know about the Pokemon metagame, stab bonus is same type attribute bonus. So if your fire Pokemon uses a fire attack, it does more damage than a normal Pokemon using the same fire attack on the same stats.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're not he's not talking about the card game, by the way. He's talking about the actual video game.
Yeah, video game. Yeah.
Yeah.
For once, I'm not talking about a card game. But yeah. So like, I'm always a big proponent of play what comes natural to you, and what you feel good playing. Yeah, because like, yeah, there's still certain decks that like there's certain decks I'm just like not a fan of playing, and I can't play it very well. Like, I could not get my head around how to play Karina Control very well. I lost a lot playing Karina Control, but I'm really good with decks that have like big play turns. So like, yeah, I was really good with Standalone Zed, and I've been seeing a lot of success with Lee Sin recently as well. Targon combo Lee Sin. Yeah. So I like that. I like the combo decks, man.
You like those turns where there's sort of like
you just like 80 to 0 them.
X number of cards need to be played in a very specific order, or you need to bait out certain things in certain ways, and it's all got to line up just right, and you got to feel like you've just like 600 IQ'd your opponent.
Yeah, but yeah, it's more so like I feel it's like it's decks that you're setting yourself up, and if your opponent gives you that moment of vulnerability, you can just like run straight through. So yeah, if your opponent if you deduce that your opponent doesn't have like an out to you, or if your opponent taps out too much, or your opponent's field is in a certain way, you just like, all right, you literally can't stop this massive knife going through the middle of your chest, so you're dead. Yeah. So yeah, so like those are decks that I like, right? And so yeah, so people might have different levels of styles or play styles or risk tolerance, you know. So someone who's more of a defensive player would probably much rather play a control deck, you know, where they're sitting back slowly chipping away at their opponent, or you know, like play an aggressive deck or whatever. Yeah. But like inherently, I love playing control as well, right? But inherently, like, control always has the issue that it's like you don't always have the solution to the problem at hand. That's the biggest issue with control in my perspective. Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, you might have a whole bunch of great counter cards or answer cards, but it's like, if you don't happen to have the right answer at the right time, you're screwed, right? So it's like, you have a big arsenal of a garage and a whole bunch of tools, but it's like, oh shit, here's a screw, but like, oh yeah, I've got like a really good Allen wrench and a really good hammer, but I'm fucked, I can't do anything. Yeah.
I can't put this screw in. because I didn't
Yeah.
draw the fucking screwdriver, or I drew a Phillips head, and I wanted
Yeah.
a star.
Yeah, something like that, right?
Yeah. I do like Control, though. Control has been my preferred playstyle for quite a while.
I feel that I feel that players that play Control and players that play aggro, players who play aggro have an image problem, right? Like, yeah, people think that people who play aggro are just like these like no brain, like zero brain, turn all guys sideways sort of like dumb players, right? And they're like, oh yeah, and then the older Control players, oh, I'm refined, look at me drinking tea. Oh, thank you, sir. Like, fancy gentleman's game. Fancy gentleman's game. You know, like, yeah, I think, like, yeah, like, there's an image problem, right? Like, just because inherently, like, okay, just because inherently Control's Control and aggro is aggro doesn't mean that that's the sort of person that's playing it, right? I swear to God, if Control was just like super oppressively good, then you have all the zero brain players playing Control. You know, if they were just like 3-cost, 2-cost spells that just like, wipe your opponent's board, you'd have a whole bunch of like 0 IQ players playing it as well. Oh yeah, I feel so smart. Look at me. I'm intelligent. I'm refined. Just sitting back with my 3-cost spells, blowing up my opponent's board.
I don't really enjoy playing aggro. I never have, but I don't want to be one of those guys who gets like a big superiority complex when I'm in the same room as aggro players, because I will admit that like a lot of the aggro decks in this game, and even like the fucking Storm shit that was in Dragon Ball, where they kept putting down those 1-drops and then picking it up with another card and playing it again and ripping life to go like super low and get heaps of value out of like these fucking double strike carvers or whatever. Like, there are a lot of moving parts in those decks that like you need to do right, and and it does take a while to work out how to play a deck like that. Because I could have shown up to a tournament with like one of those fucking flute decks with whatever fucking like Harudagan leader or whatever, and I wouldn't have played it better than half the players there, I don't think. Because what I've been playing like this other fucking deck for the entirety of the set, and now the tournament comes around, I swap to the quote unquote best deck in the meta. I'm not practiced on an aggro deck. I can't just pick it up whenever. And even in this game, like if I pick up like a burn deck or whatever, I always feel like the games I win are just like so to the wire. Like just like this close to like me taking a big loss. They always feel so close. So I don't feel like I'm a great example of an aggro player, and I prefer not to play it in general. I just default to my control decks. Ooh, you played a champion. Well, I'm going to kill your champion now.
Yeah. But yeah, so like that's my mentality for like most players. Obviously the higher your competitive play is, the more you have to be more able to play different like play styles and different decks and stuff. But yeah, that's like people who are getting to that stage, they don't need help. Like they don't need the sort of advice that we're giving, because the advice I'm giving right now is all more like sort of middle to more beginner sort of level stuff. So yeah, just play before you try to become a master and become a jack of all trades, it's better to just be a one-trick pony, man. Do not underestimate the one-trick pony. You know, just be super good at one deck, because that means you've got something you're good at that you can rely on. You know, yeah, it's just like in anime when the protagonist is just like crap at a lot of things, but they just got one ability, like one special ability, one thing that they're really good at, and the entire anime is about that anime protagonist trying to like put themselves in a situation where their little ability can like pull to win.
Have you watched Ultimate Muscle before?
I know what it's about, but I've never watched it.
It's the old
It's that
wrestling
wrestling
anime.
With
It was
Kinnikuman
a
Man.
yeah. It's about this wrestler who has one finishing move, and it's the only thing he knows how to fight with. And so every single episode is just about how this guy can use his ultimate move.
Okay, yeah.
That's
yeah,
just
so,
what that reminded
like,
me of.
Yeah, no, but like, yeah, a lot of animes that happen as well. But yeah, so play what you're good at, and don't worry too much about the meta. Plus, like, honestly, there's nothing wrong with losing. You know, even like the tippy top players, they'll still lose a lot of games if they're playing casuals and shit. Because the game is just designed in a way where the good player can't control all the factors enough to the point where they're just like winning all the time, right? Like a good example I watched in a video is that, like, if you play a top level player in like a fighting game, you've literally got like zero chance of winning. You cannot win.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas if you're playing like a shooting game or most other games, like if you're playing against the best player, you can still probably kill like that pro in like CS:GO or something. You know,
Yeah,
it's like
there's
KDA will
reason to
probably be, like,
believe in a shooting game that, you know, X out of 10 times, you will eventually find him around a corner with his back turned.
yeah.
And
And same thing in cards as well. You know, that, like, you know, maybe you just happen to have all the answers, and yeah, maybe they don't, right? But yeah, so it's like, so players should just realize that, like, yeah, you're gonna lose games, and like this, it's like, as the Russian meme said, it's just a game. Why you get so mad? It's just a game.
it's only a game. Why you have to be mad? You know, he's a hockey player, that guy. He plays goalie.
Okay.
And that guy's whole thing is that he likes to block the puck with his face. That's his whole thing as a player. Really good
That's
hockey.
his thing, okay.
Really good hockey player. Always dives in front of the puck and bashes it with his face. That's how
Did
he
it
saves
start off
goals.
just being? Was it
What's
like
that?
an accident to begin with, and he just kept doing it?
I don't know. He just like takes dives and headbutts the puck. Like, they have the cage
Okay.
on the face, so it's not like it can like
Yeah.
bust his teeth or anything. He just likes the feeling of taking a hit to the head.
Oh, okay.
He's just a bit of a weird guy. I don't know what to say. I can't even remember his name, but I know a big fan of hockey told me about him.
Okay. Yeah. So, like, going back to the Tarek thing, it's like, yeah, whatever, you know. If you enjoy playing Tarek, then just play Tarek, right? And
That's
yeah.
me. I'm playing Tarek all the time.
Yeah.
But
At
I-
the same
but I
time,
still-
don't be afraid to ask for help.
But I still play War Mothers in but I still play War Mothers in ranked. I don't play Tarek.
War Mothers is really solid. Like, yeah, I played it in Gauntlet, not last weekend, but the weekend before. Yeah, so we had the free deck format for Gauntlet. Yeah, man, it's so annoying. I got both Gauntlets up. Like, I played the Gauntlet twice, and I got it up to 6 twice, and I
What were
scrubbed out on
the
the last
deck
game.
restrictions? What were the deck restrictions for it?
I think you couldn't share regions, and you had to play free decks. So you had to bring free decks. At the start of the game, you ban one of your opponent's decks, and then it's revealed the banned decks, and then you select one of your 2 remaining decks to play against one of your opponent's, like, mystery decks. Like, you and your opponent both select deck to play.
Okay, it's in the patch notes.
Yeah.
You'll start off the standard gauntlet by picking 3 different decks you'd potentially like to field. Different how? Well, there are a few rules in place. So you can't use the same champion between decks. And each deck has to be a different region combination. And and you're only allowed 1 championless deck. So it looks like you can use the same region twice, but you can't use the same region combination twice, and you can't use the same champion twice either.
Cool. So you can play 3 different Bannerman deck and just have like.
Yeah, this is the Garen
different
version.
Splash.
This is the Fiora version. This is the whoever else version.
The Quinn version.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then like to get around the whole like region, like the region thing, you just change one card with a card from a different region. Yeah. But yeah. So I played that and I fielded War Mothers as one of my decks because it's like one of the remaining regions. And War Mothers was good for me. Lee Sin was carrying me hard for a lot of those games, and then and then my opponent banned Lee Sin in one of the games eventually because people eventually figured out how bullshit Lee Sin was. This is like the first 2 days where Lee Sin was a thing. And I was testing Lee Sin. It's like, oh man, Lee Sin's like legit. But yeah, so I played War Mothers Control. And it was actually pretty good as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the game doesn't even go that much longer. You just like, your War Mothers, you hit with a couple of things, and then you just like atrocity them, you win.
Yeah, it's really good right now. And to be honest, I think it has a lot to do with turn 3 into turn 4. Like turn 3 you play Catalyst or you play Warding Stones. Like as long as you ramp on turn 3, you're always set. Because turn 4 is always Trundle. And then Trundle just like carries you all the way till like your War Mother's turn. Because being a 4/6 on turn 4 is pretty nutty. A 4/6 on turn 5 is pretty good. Anyway. And then getting him a turn early. There's just it's so hard to remove Trundle from the board without just like straight up obliterating him or some shit. He's just too chunky. He's too fucking chunky. And then if you draw a second Trundle, you get an Icequake. And Icequake's like a fucking turn 5 board wipe.
For ages I was playing around Icequake, but I didn't see it being played that often. So I just stopped playing around it.
Or it got dropped. And this is the craziest thing. You know, Icequake got revealed, everyone said it's garbage, and then people started having double Trundle, right? So one of them turns into Icequake, and then they go, Icequake seems pretty good here. So then everyone starts main decking Icequake because it just feels super good. And now, like, everyone's dropped Icequake again. I'm just, like, so confused. Everyone keeps going back on whether or not Icequake's a good card.
Okay, yeah. I think it's alright. Committing 7's, like, kind of heavy, but it does deal with like wide boards pretty well.
Oh yeah, it hits hard, and because it negs everyone's attack, it basically like, okay, no one can attack this turn now. This is it. Like Icequake may as well kill all 3 health units and then like remove the attack token.
Yeah.
It's just like every attack now feels bad.
Yeah. Yeah. So, War Mothers is good for me. So annoyed that, like, I just, like, after 2 6-win runs, I'm like, nah, I don't have enough time for another try, so I gave up. Yeah.
Well, we've already sort of touched on Lee Sin. Do we want to go ahead and do some patch notes while we're at it?
Before we get on that, like, have you played the new lab?
Is it the one with the jungle monsters? Because I haven't touched any labs.
Yeah. Oh, the Jungle Monsters lab is pretty fun.
Yeah, I've wanted to try it, but I just haven't.
Have you seen it?
On.
Someone's probably streamed it, right?
What's that?
Have you seen it being played?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay.
Like I've cut back on how much I'm watching the game, how much I'm playing the game.
So basically, at the start of every round, a monster spawns on both sides players. So if you already got a monster, a new one doesn't spawn, but you always have a monster at the start of the turn. And you're like, and they have vulnerable and they can't attack or block. So if you kill your opponent's monster, you get a 0-cost burst spell that does one of the following. It gives you all the cards in your deck in hand, +1/+1, or +2/+2, or +3/+3, depending on the size of the monster.
Oh wow!
You get to free summon You get to free summon a non-buff monster, or you get to refill spell mana and draw cards. But to be honest, those other two options doesn't matter. The ones where it just buffs you, the ones that buffs all your guys in your deck in hand is like the main one. Like yeah, and I've been enjoying that lab. But then again, I found probably the best deck for the lab. I just like once I figured out if you play Demacia and Noxus, you win hard because you can get those high attack guys like the 5/1 chick or the Noxus guy that goes with the 5 attack and that's able to beat out the first monster and then you just snowball from there. And from that point on, all your guys are big enough to just like one shot monsters and you just keep getting those +1 +2s and shit. Yeah,
mad.
but yeah,
I'll
basically
be sure to give that a shot.
Yeah.
We should just play some more like casuals from time to time, you and me.
Yeah. So that lab is fun. But yeah, okay, now into patch notes.
Cool. So, yep, this was not the patch everyone was expecting. And it is a little bit old news at the moment because this did come out last week. And everyone's
So
already...
It's been about 10 days.
Everyone's pretty much already spoken about it. I do want to comment that Riot plans these patches pretty much a patch in advance.
Yeah, I would have said probably about 2 or 3 weeks earlier.
It's like 2 weeks. It would have been 3... They would have had this patch ready like 3 weeks ago. They had already decided what they wanted to do in this patch. So whenever something seems weird or you were expecting a nerf that didn't come because, like everyone talks about Hush getting nerfed. Hush doesn't get touched in this patch, and everyone's probably thinking, why? Well, it's because Hush wasn't out, and Riot hadn't weren't solid on, we're gonna make a nerf to Hush. But they've commented here at the start of the patch that there will be some changes coming to it in the following patch, which I think is maybe like a week or 2 away now. I'm not sure.
They usually try to do 2 weeks or something, so it might be next week Thursday.
Yeah, I suppose so.
So it might be like 6 days from now or something. Yeah.
So we should be expecting some changes to the difficulty of ASOL's level up. There are some good players who are saying, "Oh, it's going to get easier to level ASOL," and it's like the rest of us are like, "Oh, nice, it's going to get harder to level ASOL."
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Trundle receives 1 less health. Get the Vi treatment.
It's highly possible. He is pretty much... He's probably... I think he's like the most played champion right now. And it's only because he's in 2... It's only because he's in 2 different top tier decks in both War Mothers and Trundle ASOL ramp. But yeah... And apparently Grandfather Romul is going to give more hugs. He is an 8-mana 8/4 that gives a unit 4 health, by the way.
Yeah. And he's got Overwhelm and Spell Shield.
Oh yeah, he's got Overwhelm and Spell Shield.
The only reason I know is because... Yeah, the only reason I knew is because I drafted him.
I have not seen him played a single time.
Yeah, like, when I played him wasn't even good. But, like... Yeah, because I did expedition a Trundle deck at one point. So yeah, I just needed some mates, but he was not good. And it just you just use him to try to push through some damage, but he dies. Yeah,
he just dies.
Spell Shield's a lot better in constructed than it is in expeditions.
It makes sense. Okay. So, the first character to receive a nerf, the first change to a champion this game is going to be to Ezreal. You're going to introduce him?
Alright, so Ezreal, his level up condition has been changed from selecting enemy targets 8 times to selecting enemies 10 times. So basically they increase the requirement by 2. I have literally never played Ezreal in a constructed deck before. I only recently started opening them in chests and stuff. So I haven't played constructed deck of Ezreal. But from what I've seen, this might make it just that it probably is that more acceptable level of difficulty for Ezreal now. It's still quite easy if you get Riptide Rex to do a lot of the work for you. But outside the Riptide Rex, like cheating 3/4 of him, this is probably like quite a big. It gets a point where it's quite difficult to push Ezreal through at this stage, I feel.
This so I had not crafted a single Ezreal this game since I've been playing this game until the beginning of Targon, because I wanted to try the Ezreal Targon deck, and a lot of people kind of had some high hopes for it, but it was a very invoke dependent deck because there aren't a lot of tools just in Targon to give you targets. You need to sort of like invoke a couple cards that can double target, and they do a lot of the work for you. And then you sort of just get to the end of the game and just like crash in a couple of Hushes to put you over the line, because you can keep recasting Hush, obviously. Deck never felt like super good or super oppressive. And to be honest, just about every Ezreal deck, except for Twisted Fate Ezreal, had pretty much dropped off the map. No one had been playing Ezreal. So this is sort of like what I mean when I say Riot are doing patches, you know, like 2 weeks in advance or whatever. They buffed Ezreal for like last set's Ezreal. You know, last set when we had 3 different tier 2 or tier 1 Ezreal decks that were running around, all very strong, all very oppressive in the meta. And then even like some gimmick Ezreal decks that were running around. This was not really a change that was meant for this particular meta. But I will say, like I spoke to Swim today, and he is talking about taking Twisted Fate Ezreal to tomorrow's tournament. Apparently there's another tournament on tomorrow that he's playing in. And Riptide Rex apparently is doing just about all the heavy lifting for that deck anyway.
Yep.
Because he just like auto levels you.
Moving on to Lee Sin, the big card that got changed. It went from being a 6 cost to a 4 cost. Its stats have been reworked to a 3/4 instead of a 3/6. He still has the same effects on the front side and back side, but he now requires 8 spell casts to level up. And also his signature spell was changed from Dragon's Rage to Sonic Wave, which is the challenge and +2 attack one.
That's such a everything about this is such a huge buff, and we can see it just from like how much this character gets played now. There's been a lot of experimentation with like what second champ do you run and what kind of deck do you put him in, and it seems like most people have settled on something similar to Alan's version, which is more or less you run mono Lee Sin in Targon, so you don't run any other champion, and you play like Solari Priestess so that you can get written in the stars, which auto draws you your Lee Sin, so you can more or less guarantee that you'll have a Lee Sin in just about every game, more or less. You're still gonna have a game where you don't draw him, but
well, the deck draws a lot. Yeah. So the deck draws a lot. You've got the Crescent one, and you've also got the healing spell. So you cycle through your deck pretty fast. Like I always hit Lee Sin. Plus, like it's not a deck where you need to draw Lee Sin on like turn 4.
Sure. Even like Deep Med doesn't draw you units. It only draws you spells. But just by drawing spells, you are technically like thinning your deck, right?
Yeah. The card that is more important to draw, in my opinion, is the card that gives them Overwhelm. That's really important.
Zenith Blade, yeah.
Zenith Blade. That makes so like I said early on, it's like if you get Lee Sin Overwhelm, he's like really, really strong. And if you Zenith Blades Lee Sin, he has game ending power. So I tried him with Heimerdinger. It was pretty alright, but you just didn't have to Overwhelm, so it's like you didn't have the killing power. But it's like there's only like 2 regions that can give guys Overwhelm, right? So it's like Targon and it's Noxus. But Noxus doesn't have as much like cycle spells, I believe. I'm pretty sure it doesn't.
Nah, they ain't got shit.
Yeah.
Or you can run arena bookie.
Yeah.
Discard your cheapest, draw a card.
I have run Arena Brookie before, but yeah. So the Lee Sin Targon deck's really strong. Like really strong. Been enjoying it really, really, really good.
He doesn't have a
Just,
lot
like,
of bad matchups, which is the craziest thing.
From my experience, the worst matchup is either Targon or Sejuani. Mainly because of the Hush thing, or Sejuani because you can't spell shield or deny Sejuani's bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Frostbites right now are like the biggest hurt. Because if you Frostbite Lee Sin, he won't recall them when he kicks them.
Yeah.
Which I didn't realize until he came into the meta. I thought it would just like deal 0 damage recall. But no, even though the animation goes off and everything, it doesn't count as like a strike, so it won't recall them. Hushing, but I will say in the Frostbite matchup, you can still just cast like another spell and give Lee Sin barrier, and so it's not usually like a huge deal if Lee Sin now has to strike, or now has to like take a hit, because you can just like give him barrier and protect him. So it does kind of, although it is like his worst matchup, it kind of just like stalls him for a turn. And as for Hush is okay. Like it'll take away like the overwhelm and make him only deal like 4 damage to the Nexus or whatever. But again, it's just kind of like it stalls him is all it is really doing. It's like you just like stalling him a turn. And then, oh, well, it's my attack turn again. You have another answer for Lee Sin? Do ya? Huh? Do ya? And of course he is just hard to remove because he can just keep giving himself barrier. And the deck runs now like triple deny.
You can't, like, you can only give him barrier once a turn. You can't like keep barrieing him up.
Yeah, that's I get that.
Yeah.
But the deck also runs it runs like triple deep med, it runs triple deny. Because of the nature of Zenith Blade, in that if you draw one Zenith Blade, you've drawn like all your Zenith Blades. You can put Zenith Blade on fucking the 1/3 summon a Dragonling chick, the 2 cost. You can keep making her bigger if you don't draw Lee Sin early. And also you can invoke in Cosmic Inspiration, and then because it gives units everywhere 2/2. Every time you summon Dragonlings, you can get like massive Dragonlings every turn, and then it just starts becoming like really obnoxious to deal with, even without Lee Sin.
Yeah. From my experience, I haven't really needed to rely on the Dragonling chick too much. Like, like when she sticks around, she's solid, but like it doesn't win games. It just kind of like prolongs games. But yeah, Lee Sin very good, very solid. Played the shit out of it. The biggest thing about the deck that I needed to learn about it, because I just took the deck list and played it. I didn't even read any guides on it. The biggest thing is that you don't have to go out of your way to protect the free cost 1/1 like support guy. You just let him die.
Oh yeah.
Because like having the free crystals in hand just lets you like push a game. You know, you literally just like, as if you got Lee Sin with Zenith Blade and it's like, yeah, you got like the free crystals, you can just be like, alright, crystal, he levels up, alright, go in, you win. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You
only need to get like 1 trigger off him. It's only bad if like your hand is full and you've just like drawn 3 crystals. You've drawn like 2 crystals because you didn't have space for the 3rd, and then you had no mana, so you burned a card. It's like the only time it's bad for him to die. In which case you probably just don't attack with him or play him to begin with.
Nah, it's like you still get the crystals, but like your hand side is. There have been quite a lot of times where I've been like sitting on 9. I'm like, oh wait, okay. Like what I do to like not burn cards. Yeah, so that's why it's got the Spacey chick.
Yeah, Spacey as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
People don't talk.
The deck
People don't talk about her that much, but she is a really good card.
From my experience, I cut it down to 2. I felt that I was drawing into her too often.
There's a lot of matchups where you are playing her just because you're digging for the silence, the 1 mana silence.
Yeah, the Equinox. Yeah, like I was
Yeah.
about to say, the Equinox is like is the good one. And the other one is the one that gives 2 health and spell shield that doesn't like last until the end of turn. So yeah, so if I got spare mana, I'll just like chuck that onto Lee Sin. Be like, all right, now deal with deny, spell shield, and the shit. Yeah,
It's pretty crazy. But yeah, Lee Sin
So they
taking the game by storm, went from
he feels good in other regions. It's just that he's got game-ending potential in Targon. Other than that, it's like he doesn't feel broken. Like he doesn't feel as bad as Trundle does. Like he doesn't feel as overwhelming as Trundle does, because his stats are technically quite a bit below 4. Yeah. But he makes up for it for the fact that he can like challenge and barrier, but you have to commit spells to do that. But yeah, his main value is the fact that if he gets overwhelmed, he becomes really strong.
Yeah. The deck also doesn't have much like interaction with the opponent's shit. Like, it is a deck that kind of just like does its own thing and just says, okay, can you deal with me now? Can you deal with me now? Can you deal with me now? And then eventually when you can't deal with him, he wins.
Yeah, it's like how many answers can your opponent have? And yeah, and can you overcome all the like denies and the spell shields that you got? And he gets barrier as well, so it's like really tough to like deal with him. But yeah,
Fun deck.
cool. Next card, War Chefs. He got nerfed. He used to be a 2-cost 2 free. Now he is a 2-cost 1 free. So they took away 1 attack. I still played him in some decks. Yeah. So basically, this doesn't make him unplayable. It just means that like, he's actually more of a support unit. So yeah, it's like so he doesn't trade against like free 2s anymore. But other than that, his effect is still solid, and it always combos well with the Seagull.
Yeah, the seagull.
It is a seagull, right?
It's a hawk.
It looks like a seagull to me. It's white.
It doesn't have like webbed feet.
Okay, I'll have to look at this again. I'll have a look at it again.
Seagull. The 1 mana seagull. Its effect is that it steals your fucking chip every time you summon a unit.
That's why it works so well with Warchef, because he makes chips. Yeah.
I'll be honest, War Chef was one of my favorite cards in the game. Which probably sounds a bit weird, but it's mostly because he comes onto the board and he screams, a delicious challenge, or feed Demacia.
Okay, yeah, he does have talents. It just okay. I open up Fleet Feather Tracker. It is a hawk, but it looks like a seagull to me. It's a big seagull.
I can't believe you thought it was a seagull this entire time.
I don't know. I don't pay a lot of attention to like what's on the picture. Yeah.
Anyway, there are some cards that I don't like to see getting nerfed, and War Chef is one of them.
Okay.
But it's not a big deal. I mean, like as a unit, as a 2-drop. So he was a 2/3, which was like on curve 2-drop stats, but then he also provided 1/1. So he was like, if you had a 1-drop and you played him on turn 2, he was providing like slightly above curve stats. Whereas he was providing like 2 total worth of stats above his curve. Now he's only providing like 1 total worth of stats above his curve, which in my mind feels a lot worse.
It's not that much worse. Yeah.
The big benefit really, the upside here is that you can still play him and support and challenge with the bird, and the bird can still like kill like a 3 health 2-drop or something like that.
Yeah.
So you can still support to let the bird trade up, which is probably like the most relevant thing. Him having like the best thing about him having him as a card is just that he's like 3 health. And there's been like some talk at Riot. I don't know if it's in this patch notes where they mentioned what they're gonna do next patch, but apparently they're gonna buff a lot of Tarek's followers. And so, like, a potential change I could see coming is, like, oh, Tiari the Traveler, for example, might go to 3 health or something like that. And if Tiari the Traveler was a 1-3 grant 2 health, I think he'd be a way better card. As opposed to a 2-2.
Yeah. Health is much more important than attack in this game.
Like, to be honest, if they took 1 health off War Chef, it'd be a dead card now. But, because it's still 3 health, it's, like... It's still at least an okay card. At least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't had any issues with the 1 less attack, yeah.
Cool.
Next card that got a buff is Flash of Brilliance. They returned it from being a 4 cost to a 3 cost. So they nerfed it to a 4 and then they brought it back to 3.
Yep.
Not like that's what everyone wanted. Just want to keep chaining those Flashes of Brilliances. Yeah, now that Hamidin can't get elusive turrets with him.
Yeah, it had to happen. It's probably like really sick with like Tribeam Improbulator.
Yeah.
Which is actually a pretty fun card to use in my opinion.
Yeah, I was thinking about booing that deck, but then I got caught up with Lee Sin, and I never got around to it. Yeah, but yep. Well, Heimer Lux and stuff are back, so yep. Yay.
Overgrown Snapvine.
Yep. Its power got increased. It used to be a 7 cost for free. It's now a 7 cost 5 free. That whenever you play a dude, you kill it to summon another Overgrown Snapvine. Which, like, yeah, makes... It basically converts you... It kills your guys to convert them into this guy. Which used to be 4 free, but now 5 free. So it's got more pushing power. I guess you can meme it up a little bit better now, but... yeah, I know, right?
Like, I don't know. Like, I just don't care. Like, he doesn't have Overwhelm. He doesn't have, like, Fearsome or anything. It's just like, having a point of attack doesn't matter. You know what does matter? Getting this fucking card a point of health. What's it gonna take to get this fucking guy to 4 health, and then he'll be a useful card?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's one specific interaction that is now doable with this card. And, that's the guy in Freljord that gives all your 5 power units Overwhelm.
Oh, okay.
So now you can, like, play him before dropping Snapvine, and then all of your Snapvines get Overwhelm.
Yeah, okay. I don't see it as a big win. But yeah.
It's not really. But...
Yeah. Is this true that he costs, like, 1 too much? I could accept him being a 5-3 if it was maybe, like, a 6 cost. Or something.
That too.
Yeah. It's just like... 7 is starting to get kind of late game. And it doesn't do as much as other 7s do.
Absolute meme card.
And he's
you know, I would really like it if the fucking Maokai deck could exist as just a Maokai solo champion deck. And not be, like, trapped in as an alternate win con for Nautilus. Because, like, Overgrown Snapvine becomes interesting in, like, a Maokai deck, because you've, like, tossed all your shit away. But, like, Maokai generates you value every turn by summoning you a sapling, so you can just, like, stall out your turns with Snapvines.
Yeah.
Like, that could be, like, an interesting deck that could come one day. But fucking Maokai is just, like, so fucking hot garbage.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah.
And we'll just only ever see Maokai with sea monsters, which I don't like. I wanna have, like, the Force of the Forest deck, right? You know,
Yeah.
I want all the tree beards to go at it.
Or yeah, they can probably change it or do some stuff with it. Like his level up condition isn't necessarily locked to sea monsters. Technically, it's like it's playable to play him in a deck where you're just like killing your own shit. But like 25 is a lot. It's yeah. The issue is that it's counting toss cards as well as like your own guys dying. But it's way easier to toss 4 than it is to kill like 4 dudes, even in Shadow Isles. Yeah.
Well, like, what was I gonna say? Like the units in the Maokai deck are all just like so shit. So like you have to like, oh, well, I'm tossing all these cards anyway. I may as well just like go into sea monsters and go super deep, and now I don't have to worry about using these piss weak Maokai tree units that are in Shadow Isles. I can just like play the big fucking sea monsters that are all like reasonably costed or really cheap if I have Nautilus on board. Also,
Yeah.
don't play deep right now, kids. It's just bad ASOL.
Yeah.
Hilariously, apparently Maokai, solo Maokai is a really good deck into like the ASOL shit, but only into the ASOL shit, and it just loses to everything else.
Okay. Well, I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, Overgrown
Yeah.
Overgrown needs more than one fucking point of power, right? Like, let's be real.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. All right. Next card got a buff is Crackshot Corsair. It used to be a 1-cost 1/1. Now it's a 1-cost 1/2. Cool.
She's a yeah.
Yeah, I guess it can take out spiders now.
Yeah. She doesn't just like die to pings.
Die.
Yeah.
To the pings and stuff.
Um.
Okay, yeah, it's fine considering how much value ones were getting anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good
Next
buff to petty
card.
officer.
Yeah. Next card is Jagged Taskmaster. It used to be a 3 cost 3/2. Now it's a 2 cost. No, it used to be a 3 cost 4/3. Now it's a 2 cost 3/2. So it's on curve. And Plunder, grant all your 1 cost allies everywhere +1 attack. Seems pretty good.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
still have to plunder it in though.
Yeah, but it's like if you're playing all those ones, you're guaranteed to have a 1 in deck. Like a 1 on field on turn 1. If you swing into it, it's like bang, alright, there's your plunder. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, if there's any deck that was able to plunder like early on, it's that deck. The deck that runs like half of it like one cost dudes.
The 1 cost deck.
Yeah. But yeah, nah. Seems good.
Yep.
Well, yeah, it seems much better now, but yeah. Next card, Yordle Grifter. This was a solid nerf. His nerf was that he used to say, create a warning shot in hand and a Legion snap 1. Now it just says a Legion snap 1 and create a warning shot in hand. So basically, he doesn't get any freebies, he has to allegiance it all. Yeah, this card was like super good value. Now it's more conditional, pretty good value.
Yeah. This card's like viability in the game was very closely tied to Riptide Rex. Because you could play this guy on 4, get a 3/3, and then you just have warning shot for the Rex turn. And you can just hold onto it forever. It didn't require you to like draw into a warning shot that you might never get. And then have to like jump through some weird and wacky hoops just to try and get like your Rex trigger. This was a card that just guaranteed it for you, and you could run it in any deck. You didn't need to run it in an Allegiance deck. If you ran it in a deck that had like 30 Noxus cards and 10 Bilgewater cards, it wouldn't matter. You could still run this guy just because you had Rex in the deck. So this is a This is seen more as a nerf to Rex than as a nerf to Yordle Grifter, and people have been asking for a nerf to Rex. My only problem with the idea of nerfing Rex is that I don't really know how you would nerf Rex without over nerfing him. I think making him a 9 cost is too much. I think reducing his damage to units by 1, because he deals 2 to all units when he cannonballs them. I think reducing it to 1, I think that's too big of a nerf. And
the only metric that you could really nerf him is the number of shots that he fires, I feel.
Probably, yeah. Like, he only fires, 6 shots instead of 7 or something like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I think nerfing Rex is pretty hard, and I think nerfing its pairing card is probably the best way to do it.
Yeah, Yordle Grifter was just, kind of, he was very dependable value, even if you didn't have the condition, but then when you met the condition, it was, really, really good. And yeah, so you were playing it for the main thing, but then you got, an occasional bonus, but now it's less there's no main thing, it's all been wrapped up into the bonus. So you actually have to kind of try. Yeah.
From what Swim was saying today about his Ezreal Bilgewater deck, he's actually going pretty heavy on the Allegiance. So he's cutting out a lot of the Targon. A lot of PNZ stuff. He's just running no, you updated your drivers, man. You were gone a lot longer than usual that time.
Yeah, I know, it was weird. I was I thought... Oh, wait. Cool, turn it on camera, and then now this is full screen. Okay, cool. Yeah, actually... Yeah. Yeah, it's quite a while. I actually don't know what caused it to disconnect and shit.
Anyway.
I wonder if maybe it's because, the camera overheats or some shit.
Don't know. Anyway, as I was saying, when Swim was talking about his decks today, in Discord, he was only running, in Ezreal Twisted Fate, he's only running Ezreal and, Thermo Beam as his PNZ cards. Even cutting Static Shock, which is pretty crazy. And the idea being, we'll just let Rex flip my Ezreal. We won't go too hard on trying to make other stuff do it. What's it called? Make It Rain anyway? That's, if you hit 3 units with that, that's 3 triggers towards Ezreal too. Bilgewater has some really good ways to flip Ezreal. And Rex, to be honest, Rex really doesn't feel that overpowered right now. He felt super duper good towards the end of last set, but there weren't a lot of decks that could go, tall enough or wide enough to, tank enough of the Rex hits where it wouldn't just be a total board wipe.
But yeah, there's a lot of big dudes now.
But now there's a lot of big dudes, and even in the decks that do run a lot of little dudes or whatever, they can go pretty wide. Or even the Demacia and Genevieve decks, they have ranges resolve, so they can toughen up all the units. And now, what originally was Rex killing 3 dudes on the boards is now Rex killing 1 dude or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I personally think Rex feels rather fair at the moment.
Yeah,
but
I would agree.
But I think a nerf to Yordle Grifter is quite warranted.
Yeah, Riptide Rex's stats are also not the greatest as well. He's 7-4.
Yeah.
So yeah, he does die pretty easily. So yeah, I can agree with this nerf to Yordle Grifter. Yeah. Next card is the last card that's been changed. It's Cygnus the Moonstalker. He used to be a 6 cost 4/2 lol, and now he's a 6 cost 5/3. His effect is still the same. It's Nightfall, grant him and another dude elusive for the turn. Yeah, so I recently drafted him in a Nightfall deck in Expeditions recently, and he was actually reasonably solid for me. I went 7 in that expedition, which is really hard. I thought I was gonna go maybe 3 wins and then lose with Nightfall, because Nightfall does not feel very strong in expeditions. But yeah, nah, just like just making him and another dude elusive just go face on a 5 attack body is pretty solid.
Even when he was a 4-2, sometimes you used to get him off Unspeakable Horror, and there were times when playing him was actually pretty good. Like, you just need to like push a little bit extra damage, and and a lot of the times, like, Unspeakable Horrors run in quite a lot of different decks. Like,
yeah, I've noticed.
Like, running Unspeakable Horror in, like, War Mothers, right? And it's like, let's fucking just play Cygnus for the lols and make Tryndamere elusive for the turn, right?
Yeah.
He kind of, Cygnus almost becomes Targon's Atrocity in a way, because it's like a 6-cost, like, finisher.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really see a lot of people main decking this guy as more than like a one-off or anything like that. But he's solid. I think he's good. Yeah. I mean, 5 damage to the face on an elusive, plus some other unit, even if it's only like 3, that's still like 8 damage. It's a pretty big clap.
Yeah. When I was playing Expedition, I would chuck it onto the 5/3 Crescent. I think it's Crescent Guardian.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Just run them both in. Feels good. You know, oh no, I'm losing. My opponent has board. Play the pedal. Drop Crescent Guardian. Drop this dude. Win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot of damage. So, yeah. For 6 mana, it's it's a really good return on investment. Unless your opponent has elusive blockers, and then there's like no point running him.
Yeah. But I guess against elusive though, yeah, you can always play it on your opponent's attack turn. Just be like, all right, defense, Nightfall, guys.
Yeah, I guess you could do that as well.
Yeah.
That appears to be all of the patch notes. It's not a very big patch, but it's whatever. You can sort of see what I mean when people are saying that it was a bit of a weird patch and it didn't seem to address a lot of the problems people had with the game as of currently. Supposedly next patch, Hush is going to get like an escalation on its repeated cost. So it's going to be something like, you cast it for 3, and then if you cast it again, it'll cost you 4, and then 5, and then 6, or whatever.
I was literally going to say that earlier in the podcast, that if they had to nerf it, I would have nerfed it like that. Yeah.
It is probably a little bit overblown how much people are complaining about Hush. Because, Reddit goes crazy about this sort of shit. And then when you hear streamers and YouTubers come out and say it's a fucking card that it's done this and that to the game. I know Grappler put out a video for it, and he's been very vocal about his dislike of Hush, and a lot of people have. Even Alan has said, yeah, all right. Like Alan has said, and seems to be the true opinion of a lot of people. Hush is not a great card, but Hush makes a lot of things very unplayable or unfun.
I think, so my issue with Hush, so Hush only becomes really strong when you have the potential to cast it 3 times in a turn, right? Because, getting a dude hushed once, if it didn't create another Hush in your hand, no one would complain about it. If it was a free cost, silence to do for a turn, burst spell, no one would complain. It's just alright, cool, it's a fair card. It's just you don't complain about getting frostbited or whatever, right? The fact, if you're casting it in the mid game, you can cast it once, maybe cast it a second time, but then you're not doing anything for that turn, right? It's really strong when you where you're able to cast it 3 times. So it's you cast it once to gimp your opponent, and then your opponent can then cast something to sort of buff their guy or do something, but then you can just recast the Hush, right? So Yeah, so in my opinion, it's only really strong in ramp decks or control decks where you can have the potential to cast it 3 times, because then your opponent just doesn't even bother doing any more stuff to like deal with the combat, because you just like rehush it, right? So yeah, so like the main issue is like, because it's in that region, if Hush in its exact form was in Noxus, no one would give a shit, in my opinion. Yeah, because like, oh yeah, you know, my opponent can Hush me twice, or they could play like Darius, or play like whatever like what's his name, the Kano the Chucky guy or something.
Kano the Chucky guy.
What's his name?
Kano the Chucky guy.
What's his name?
That's the best. I've never
throws his
heard
girlfriend at
someone
people, right?
call him Kano the Chucky guy.
What's his name?
It's Kano the Arm.
Oh yeah, at least I got the name right.
Kano the Arm.
I don't remember these names, man. I got too many cards to deal with. So, yeah.
Oh my god. Kano,
right?
This podcast proudly brought to you by Kano, the Chucky guy.
He chucks guys real good. Yeah. Yeah, so it's like, it's the only issue is that literally Targon is one of the regions that is designed to go late game control, and Hush being in it. So yeah, so that's its only issue, in my opinion, is that it just happens to be in a control region. Yeah. So the fact that your opponent can threaten rehushing you basically means you can't do anything else for the rest of the turn.
Yeah, you can't protect your own unit.
Yeah.
By reapplying buffs, which is like the most annoying thing. Like a dude can like Hush Tryndamere, and then like your Tryndamere now doesn't flip in combat or some shit like that, and that's like annoying, but like it's never like so punishing that it just like fucks you for good. Oh, now I can't win the game. But like having your opponent like, you know, full like 12 mana or whatever, you go in with this big like donkey dick attack, and then like they hit like 2 of your units with Hushes, put in these really sick blocks where like these piece of shit units are just like trading up super high.
Trading up, yeah.
And now you can't, and you can't buff to response because he's still holding Hush.
Yeah, so that's the issue, right? Like, if your opponent casts Hush twice and didn't have the mana to cast anymore, then you're like, cool, I'll do something and like mitigate this, right? But my opponent had to sink 6 mana into it, right? But yeah, the fact that it's variable, right? If there was a spell that was like 6 cost, like Hush 2 guys, no one would have an issue. And there was a 9 cost spell, Hush all your opponent's guys for the turn, no one would have an issue, right?
To be honest,
the fact that
both of those cards would probably never get played.
Yeah, but the fact that it's this card that can be like 3, 6, 9, or 12, then it's like, yeah, it's the option, yeah. So yeah, so the scaling thing might be relevant. So yeah, I would have upped the recurring like spell cost.
Yeah, that's sort of what I initially thought would be the right change to come to the card. To be honest, like silencing is kind of like a really strong, really annoying effect in the game. But I feel like silencing should be in the game in some way, shape, or form. Like that, you should be able to silence cards.
Yeah.
Especially when you run into situations like, because like regen units that are like really massively buffed up, become really frustrating to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
And having a silence for dudes like that is really important. Having the ability to deal with things like They Who Endure is something I really like being in the game.
The fact that you can silence champions now is actually like relevant.
Yeah, I think that's really good. Because, you know, how funny is it to like silence a dude's fucking like Thresh before he pulls a unit out, or silence a Darius so he can't level up during combat or some shit like that. It's like just these like
Yeah.
big sick moments that just like, you know, foil your opponent's whole plans.
Yeah, man. I've done that before. Yeah, I've hushed my opponent's Vladimir so they couldn't level up the Vladimir to get the drain, and so they lost.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So if we want to do the next part real quick,
Yep. All right.
we can look at some card submissions. I didn't jump on the subreddit this week because we were doing like the patch and whatever. So we're just going to do some cards that Lath sent in. Now, of course, he does listen to just about every single show.
Wow.
So I can say that he did look at he did redo his Slotbot card that we talked about a couple weeks ago.
Oh, really? Okay.
So now his Slotbots will turn into like the King Slotbots when they roll sevens.
Oh, yeah.
As per your request. And
Yeah, man.
And he also heard us talk about MageSeekers and what we kind of wish some of the things MageSeekers sort of did. And so he has sent us reworks for all of the MageSeeker cards.
Cool.
I will comment before we look at these that I do currently like most of the MageSeekers, with maybe the exception of like the 4-cost like big guy.
You mean his builds? Like, you mean his edits, or you mean like the current ones in the
The
game?
MageSeeker cards that are currently in the game, I do actually really like.
Yep.
As they are. So when we were talking about like some of the things we'd like to see like MageSeeker cards do, it's more these are new cards I would like to see introduced to the archetype. But I think it's fair enough that we can look at Lath's cards, and maybe there are some good ideas for some potential new MageSeeker cards, or you know, he might even have a good idea for changes to ones that are there already. So let's take a look at them.
Cool. MageSeeker Conservator. His design is a 2-cost 2 free spell shield. Round start, create a fleeting copy of a spell that get used last round priority and enemy spells. Okay. Cool. So it's So on round start, create a fleeting copy of a spell that got played last turn, prioritizing opponent's spells.
And he's got Spell Shield.
Yeah, and he's got Spell Shield. I like it. Okay, so like a couple of things, right? So I think at that lower cost, his stats are too high. So like any 2-cost card that gets you value should basically be 2-1, pretty much all across the board, right? So especially if he's got Spell Shield, he's definitely got to be 2-1. That free health is too much health for a card like this, right? And it would probably have to say round start, create a fleeting spell of a copy of an opponent's card that they played last turn. That's what I think it should be. So I don't think it should just create you a fleeting spell every turn, if nothing's done. I think, it should be a copy of a spell that your opponent cast last turn, because the whole idea is that he's kind of stealing your opponent's spells because he's a MageSeeker seeking spells and shit. So that's how I would personally change it. Bump down the health and make it only steal your opponent's shit, or create fleeting copies of your opponent's shit.
I don't have much to say, but I do really like the idea of having a card that doesn't steal, but it gains access to one of your opponent's spells from the prior turn. I think that's a pretty cool idea for an engine.
Yeah. Maybe 2 might be a little bit too low cost as well. Maybe a 3 might be more fairish. But out of 3, you could probably go 3 cost 2/2 spell shield. Yeah. But 2's probably a little bit too low. But otherwise, I like the design. I would just tweak some of the power to narrow it down a little bit more. So next card is MageSeeker Investigator. It's a 3-cost 3/3 spell shield. On play, reveal all spells in your enemy hand. Okay. I can get on board with this. So yeah. It's like, and that's one of the cool things about this card game, is that when you see, like, if there's cards that are revealed in your opponent's hand, they just, like, they get flipped around. So yeah, I like one of that design components of this game. Yeah, no, I can really get on board with this. Yeah, like, yeah, I can really get on. I think that's spot on. I'm not sure about free necessarily. Yeah, I'm not sure about free necessarily.
She's
But,
probably too fighty at 3/3.
Yeah. But yeah, other tn that, like, I think it's pretty spot on. Maybe like a 2/3 or a 2/2 or a 3/2. Just like shave off 1 point somewhere there.
Yeah.
And be pretty on board.
It could potentially be providing too much value at 3 cost. To just like dumb down the game like that. Like, oh yeah, now I know all the spells you have. And I would because she's not like an engine or anything, I think you can probably strip the spell shield off. It's not really relevant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But like I really like that effect. That's a very interesting new effect.
Yeah, because unlike like the Conservator's providing you like an engine, like he's doing something at the start of every turn, so he's a unit that your opponent would have to work towards actually removing. Whereas Investigator gives you something the second she's been played. So having Spell Shield is kind of irrelevant, because they can just like kill a 3/3 in combat, and you're not really caring yourself about keeping her on the board.
Yeah, okay, so just because like it's not necessarily designed to make the card stronger, thematic, like, okay, there are plenty of cards where it's like if they have Spell Shield or something, it doesn't necessarily need to make them stronger. It's just like a keyword that they have. So, like, as a MageSeeker, like, I'm on board with them having Spell Shields, and I guess like his design of the MageSeekers, they all have Spell Shields. So I can get on board with it having a Spell Shield, even though it's not necessary to make the card good or more playable or anything. I just think its stats probably a little bit too high.
Okay.
But yeah.
Next one.
Next card is MageSeeker Persuader. It's a 5-cost 4/5 Challenger Spell Shield. When the enemy casts a spell or a skill, I strike the weakest enemy. If no enemy is on board, I strike the nexus for half damage. So half his attack. MageSeeker Persuader. See, like, okay. Yeah, like, I don't understand the Persuader part, but I guess he was also the Challenger one previously. Him striking a dude, I'm not sure about that. Yeah, and his effect is pretty strong to also have Spell Shield on. And his stats are also almost champion level. Yeah, this is like a champion level card. To be honest, this is like a leveled up champion level card, as it currently is. Yeah. Hum. So it's okay. So in this situation, he is supposed to give. He's supposed to deter your opponent from casting spells, right? So I get that, and I can get on board with that. But like, what is the best way for him to do that, right? So I think maybe instead of necessarily instead of making him strike a guy, I think maybe what might be better is tweaking his stats so his attack stat is lower. Maybe making him a 5-cost 2/5 with Challenger Barrier. But then, like, whenever your opponent casts a spell, give him either +1 or +2 attack. So that way, like, okay, because if you think about it, right? If he's a 5-cost 4/5 challenger and spell shield, he's kind of like that dragon, right? Isn't there a dragon that was kind of like that? That Demacian dragon?
The Demacian dragon doesn't have spell shield.
Oh, he doesn't have spell shield. Yeah, he has challenger and fury.
It's
yeah.
4/5 challenger fury. There's a Targon 5/5 with spell shield dragon.
Yeah, spell shield fury. So I think this guy, he could probably be like a 5-cost 2/5, and then still have challenger and spell shield. But then whenever your opponent casts a spell, give him like +2 attack. So it's like, yeah, if your opponent casts a spell after he comes out, he becomes like a 4/5 challenger spell shield, which is like pretty solid. Which is pretty solid. And if your opponent's dumb enough to be like, oh yeah, I'll buff my guy, I'd be like, oh yeah, you buffed my guy as well in combat, and it's like, oh no, I fucked up. Yeah. Yeah, so like that's how I would tweak it. I think right now it's kind of a little bit too strong. Even though he probably had it in mind as a way to counter Ezreal. Yeah, but real talk, it probably probably a little bit too strong of a counter for Ezreal. Yeah, and as for the last card, I thought I could hold it right until the end, but then right at the end it was like, nope, that's time.
It's coming.
But I just had to finish my tech. No, that's time. Yeah, so MageSeeker Insider is a 6/6/6 spell shield. When I'm summoned, redirect all enemy spells towards me. I could be played as a response to spells. So, I think what this card probably could say, instead of saying that I can be played in response to spells, probably could just say he's fast or say he's burst. He'd have to be burst, because if it was fast and you played it in response to stuff, it would be kind of weird. So I think this is how the syntax would have to go. I think the syntax would have to be, he'd have to be burst, and then on play, redirect all enemy spells towards me. So you can play him as a burst. He comes in, and then because it's the on play ability, his on play then redirects all that shit. And the fact that he's got spell shield is good. But yeah,
it just means like if your opponent plays like quite a few spells, and you
can pull all of them.
You drop this guy, he can pull all of them, but like the first one will just get cancelled out.
Yeah. Yeah. It probably should. It depends on how strong they want this card to be, but it could also say something along the lines of redirect all enemy spells that are able to target me to me.
Yeah, it'd be something like I become the target for all spells or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then spells that don't target, you'd be playing this guy into nothing.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I think he hit it out the park with most of these. I like the Conservator, I like the Investigator, I like the Insider. Persuader, yeah, I think that was the least thematically one, on point one. But yeah, then Persuader, what do you ain't got much to work with unless you read the lore or some shit.
Yeah,
ain't nobody got time for that.
Sure.
But yeah, no, I like all the designs. Good work, Leif. I might have crapped on some of your cards in the past, but this is a good set. I like this set.
Yeah, no, these are all very cool, and I would welcome these ideas in the future.
Yeah.
And I'm fucking 6-drop, it just pull aggro on a whole bunch of your opponent's shit. Just feels like such a sick power play. Could you imagine doing that in a game? Your opponent plays this sick combo, and then you just drop this fucking guy. Even playing this guy as a response to Vengeance or something. Your opponent plays Vengeance, you drop Insider, and it's cool, I'm gonna pull Vengeance now into my spell shield, and I've got a 6/6 on the board.
Yeah, and the best is if your opponent's doing Will of Ionia on one of your guys, so you play it, he gets willed, and it's ready to do it again.
It's sick. Still tanks the... It gets eaten by the spell shield, though. So we'd have to play a couple different spells for that to happen. But, like, sometimes it's relevant, like, in combat, your opponent will, like
stun one of you guys.
Stun one thing, and then, like, will another thing, if they're Ionia. Of course, it was more relevant back in the past when will was 4 mana and a 3 of in every deck. Sometimes your opponent needs to play, like, both spells to protect themselves, and you, like, drop this guy, and he eats both of them. And then... Yeah. Seems like a pretty powerful counterplay.
Yeah, at 6 it's expensive, but like I think it's a reasonably fine card to have at 6. It's like even if you make it like a burst, the fact that it's not a spell means you can't play with spell mana. So it's a hard 6 burst to play. Yeah. So I think MageSeeker inside are probably balanced. Yeah. It probably has less scope than you would think, probably because a lot of buff spells are burst. Yeah. But, I guess it gives Demacia some form of deny type effect.
Yeah. It's on an expensive card, but you get a well-sized unit for it.
Yeah.
And because it's got spell shield, like, you're not just, like, sacking a unit into something. Like, if you're, like, if a guy drops Comet onto your Garen and you drop this guy, you don't just, like, pay 6 to not get commeted.
This is, like... It's a really, like... Doing this on your opponent's big spell is almost game-winning. Like, for example, like, let's say... I don't know, like, turn 5, your opponent does some stuff, you drop a Garen on turn 5, right? So, and let's say that was your opponent's attack. And then it's like, it goes into turn 6, and... Like, let's say, I don't know, let's say you pass, and then your opponent uses Vengeance to kill your Garen. You drop this, you counter the Vengeance, and now you got an extra 6/6 as well as your Garen to push in. It's like really back-breaking if you're able to counter like a good target spell with this. Yeah.
But like, I like Demacia should have effects like this. It just makes it makes the region far more interesting, and who better to have it on than like the MageSeekers?
Yeah, like because when you think of Demacia, it feels like it would be a region that has like a Paladin-esque ability, right? You know, have some sort of divine shield shit. But yeah, it doesn't have that. So, but MageSeekers kind of falls into a different sort of feel of it as well. So yeah, it's good design. But I think, Demacia probably should deserve a little bit more, like, protection spelly sort of stuff. Yeah. Or anti, like, spell sort of protection. Yeah. But yeah. That's it for this week. Thanks, Slave, for sending them in. And if you other card game designers, aspiring card game designers, want to get our opinions on stuff, send them to Jack at his Twitter or Reddit or something.
Yep, all of our socials are in the description listed below. You can hop into my Discord and send me private messages. You can tweet me shit on Twitter. Yeah, it's pretty easy to get in contact with me, and I pretty much talk to everyone who messages me anyway. Yeah,
not that I don't care about what you guys say. It's just I'm a very busy man. I'm a busy carving it up in real life. Yeah.
That's the man right there.
Yeah, man. I'm actually kind of like Sedokaiba, because I come second in a lot of tournaments. And Sedokaiba never wins a tournament.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. But yeah, that's episode 22, guys.
Thanks for watching. And I guess we'll see you all next week.
GrandJason out.